When I was 10 years old, I remember watching my mom do her makeup. I love to watch my mom do her makeup. My mother was like the quintessential, like Mary Kay makeup black woman. And she would put on her eyeshadow in the bathroom and put on lipstick in the bathroom. And she had like probably 3 to 4 different wigs because it was the 70s and we were living in Maryland. And when you're a black woman in the 70s, you have several wigs. It's a part of the performance. And I remember watching her and I loved it. I loved everything about it. I loved all the ritual of her watching put on her makeup. I loved the way it smelled because her bathroom smelled like Charlie and Gina Tay, because she would use the Gina Tay body splash and then she would top it off with a little bit of Charlie. So it was her own kind of personal mix. And I remember one day thinking, I don't ever want my mom to die. That would be the worst thing that could possibly happen to me and my sister. So I remember saying to her, you know, Mommy, I don't want you to die until I turn 16. Because when you're 10, 16 feels like a really long way away. It feels like something that it's going to take you a long time to get there. And if my mom was going to not die until I was 16, which felt like a grown-up, then I probably could manage it. And she looked at me in her long line bra, in her Mary Kay makeup, with her Gina Tay. And she said, okay, I promise you I won't die until you're over 16. And she didn't. She kept her promise. My mom didn't die until she was 68. I was 31 when my mom passed away. So much has happened to me in the last 21 years since my mother's transition that I would love to talk to her about. I have a very sweet, consistent relationship with her in the ancestral realm. We do communicate often, consistently. And I also would like to sit across from her with a glass of bourbon and say, listen, this whole aging thing is really interesting. And who were you when you were 50 and 51 and 52? And what did it mean for you to be parenting 2 black girls and going through a divorce and trying to like negotiate life and relationships and friendships and work, all of it. And so that has made me think about the conversations I want to have, the conversations that I do have that are so beautiful and rich and funny and hard and emotional and complex. They're exquisite. These conversations are exquisite. And I wanted to make these conversations available to other people. And so I started thinking about this crone thing, right? So am I a crone? I think I am. I'm not sure. I think I am because I haven't had a cycle in over 6 years. I'm initiated in the Ifa Yoruba tradition, and the last time I had a real period was when I was in Nigeria in 2013. And when I came home from Nigeria, my period stopped. Like it went away. And I know that I was likely perimenopausal for quite some time because I gave birth to my last child, to Taj, when I was 41. And my period was sporadic then when I got pregnant with Taj. Before it just stopped. And I was like, okay. And I was in my 40s. So I'm like, well, clearly I'm not a crone in my 40s. But here I am in my 50s. And I'm thinking I'm getting closer to what people who would understand what crone mythology or crone spirituality or crone identity is, that I'm getting closer to that place. And so I'm starting to claim that. So what exactly am I talking about? The crone is the third phase of goddess-based tradition or pagan or earth-based spirituality that talks about the maid, the mother, and the crone. The crone is the third phase. The maid is characterized as a young woman who has not given birth to a child yet. So she's often associated with the new moon phase, which is often associated with Oshun or associated with Libra or Taurus, right? It's an interesting kind of newness, spring, right? whereas the mother is associated with the full moon. And that full moon energy can look like the Orisha Yemoja, right? The mother of fishes, the ocean. We sometimes call her Yeye Tobi, Big Mama. So that's kind of, Cancerian energy, nurturing, whether you actually are physically giving birth to children, you may be parenting or nurturing younger people in your life. And it's a constant kind of energy that's associated with that. The crone is associated with Scorpio and Oya. And it's the dark side of the moon. It's the waning moon. It's the moon that is quiet. It's the moon the moon phase that is often unexplored and is associated with, occult energy. And honestly, occult energy is really, that word translates to hidden. And I don't want that to be hidden. I want that to be illuminated. I want us to light that up. And so here we are with this opportunity to do that. My name is Omi Sade Bernie Scott, and this is the Black Girl's Guide to Surviving Menopause. So I want to introduce my co-host for the day, who's actually going to turn the tables on me. Mm-hmm. She's going to talk to me and ask me questions. Her name is Angel Dozier. And Angel, I met Angel when I was in my crone phase. I met Angel probably about 5-6 years ago, but we started to become more visible to each other and connected to each other about 4 years ago. And I thought it would be great to have Angel ask me questions and talk to me, because Angel has become my creative doula. She's been my, kindred, my soulmate in most things that I have done creatively in the last 4 to 5 years, and that's been a real blessing.
Yeah, it's a sister thing. I think about so much. I'm Angel. Hello. I like to say about myself that I am an around the way girl, because I am. It's a pleasure to be here talking about the crone and helping to provide some kind of guidance to survive menopause, because I absolutely need that for myself. And I've always been looking for something like that, whether I knew to name it that way. And so one of the things that you just said about the waning moon and that energy being associated with Oya, because we've been experiencing that just recently, that same energy. And as we embark upon the new moon in the morning, as a matter of fact, I wanted to kind of say a little bit about it and then go into these questions, because that particular note that you said, it's normally around the waning crescent moon and the waning moon. We tend to feel a little bit glum.
Yeah.
And that's because there's a feeling of loss as we conclude the lunar cycle. And as we prepare to enter another new cycle, because that energy indicates endings, so that new beginnings can happen, you're once again beginning the cosmic dance of reflection and release. Your psychic abilities are stronger at this time, and you can easily connect with ethereal realms. And that's why we tend to feel lower energy during the waning moons, because the universe always knows exactly what we need, even when we don't. So it gives us an opportunity to reach out to those more ethereal things in life. So this and so many things I heard you say made me want to ask you, how did you come up with this idea? How did this idea of the podcast come about?
Well, actually the idea first was like, I want to do this decolonizing the crone thing from a very selfish place. I think that the last few years of my life, especially since Che graduated from college, so I have 2 sons, right? You know them. Che, who's 27, and Taj, who's 10. And since Che graduated from college, I have felt like in this weird bridge, because my boys are 16 years apart. So it's just like, okay, so I'm in this new phase of trying to figure out parenting a kid as I'm like really changing in so many ways. My body's changing, my relationships are changing, how I like see my role in my community is changing. Like I feel like in this constant state of flux, like a constant state of flux has been disorienting. I felt a little crazy, in fact. And about 3 years ago, you and folk who I'm very close with know I went through a very dark depression where I feel like I had like pitched a tent on the dark side of the moon. And I got diagnosed with clinical depression. And I was like, what is this place I'm living in? Where is this place? I think of that as a gift now. I didn't think of it as a gift then. I think of it as a gift now because it reoriented me to realize that the place where I was and the place that I often find myself, which is the dark side of the moon, there's something for me to learn about myself, right? And I think that there are other people there with me, but we don't even know we're there together. So it feels isolating. It feels scary. It feels like a place where the monster who used to live under my bed might be. And I was like, maybe that's not true. Like maybe I'm not the only person here. And maybe that I don't have to be afraid to be in this place. So I started using the language of decolonizing the crone, right? Because if something's colonized, it has been taken from its indigenous roots, the indigenous people, whether that's indigeneity that is here in this country or indigeneity that's from the continent of Africa. Like there are indigenous people all over the world who are natives to a particular land, who have their own culture, had their own language, had their own religion, their own thoughts on life cycles. And then slavery, colonization, imperialism has just jacked it all up. Like I don't know what the original state of things were. I just don't. So I say I'm decolonizing the crone, making a whole lot of assumptions that might actually be wrong, but it's coming from a place of reclamation for myself. I'm reclaiming this dark side of the moon and illuminating it so I can see where I am. I can see who's there with me. We can have conversation while we're there. We don't have to like be silent. You know, there's something about solitude and introspection, but that doesn't have to be like cloistered and scary. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's kind of what prompted me to do that. And then I started having conversations with all these other Black women around aging, and they were like, yes, Omi, that's exactly what I'm experiencing or have experienced or wish somebody would talk to me about. Or I wish that someone had said this to me when I was in my 30s or my 40s. And I was like, okay, so I'm going to now be more intentional about having these conversations. And then I said, well, how do I make this conversation accessible? Okay, fine. We'll record it. And then, of course, I was like, well, if we record it, what are we going to do with these recordings? And so podcasts. Because I like podcasts. I like that you actually have to listen and pay attention. Like there's no distraction with what the person looks like and what they have on, and look at her hair, it's amazing, look at that jewelry, look at whatever. It's like I'm not looking, I'm really having to listen to your voice, listen to your words. So I'm very attracted to the podcast as a modality to have people like stop and listen. Yeah.
So I wonder, when you were having this conversation with your mother and you were negotiating this life cycle with her, it sounds like she was about 47 at the time.
Yeah.
Using her Charlie. I remember what that smells like. I could smell it when you said that.
Yeah.
And just imagining her putting on her Mary Kay. Was your mother a crone then? And what is a crone?
Yeah, no, she wasn't. My mother had me at 37 and had my sister at 38. So she was 37 when we were having this conversation. 47. She wasn't a crone, but my mom was born under the astrological sign of Cancer. My mother had children late. My mother had experienced a really hard childhood growing